Marcus, thank you very much for this opportunity. Everyone, thank you for spending some time with me and the Hostaway team today. And really honored that Marcus, Maria, Josh have given me an opportunity to share what I've learned over the last 6 years in building Trust B&B. And I just want to, when I thought about the presentation and about our guests, the one common thing that came out was showing that you care. And that's what really the communication, the technology that Hostaway provides allows us to show the customers that we really care about them. And if we show that we care about them and can deliver a good experience, that hopefully will get us many reviews and many five-star reviews. And just as a kind of showing on that theme of showing that you care, I remember, so I joined Hostaway. I was a customer at Hostaway in November 2019, and of course, COVID happened. And Marcus was kind enough to sit down with me and probably all the other customers in Hostaway and showed that Hostaway cared about what his customers were going through that journey. And I always remembered that. So when they asked me to do this today, I was very happy to do that. So everyone, thanks again for spending the time. So just quickly on me, Michael Chang, I'm based in New York. We have about 30 properties now on Hostaway in our portfolio. A little bit of my background, I'm a former investment banker. Finance was my background before I got into property management, so not a very traditional path. My wife and I built this business starting in 2016 when we were both working, and we've been able to build this business to something now that we both work full time in. And the technology part has been a huge piece of that puzzle in order to help us scale the business, which I'd love to talk about today. Just quickly, my background, I was at Citigroup and Merrill Lynch as an M&A investment banker, went to Cornell to get my MBA, and now we've built Trust B&B. So go on the right side of the page there. So these logos really just going to show that anyone can really do this. It's such a broad swath of people that have come into the short-term rental space. Everyone does it a little differently. But I think the commonality is, like, if you show your customers that you care, you're going to get good reviews and you're going to build your business, get good revenue. So that's something I want to highlight. Next slide, please. Okay, so wasn't always like this. This is our first, I just want to kind of show, this is pre-PMS, right? So we launched our first listing December 2016, no PMS system. Literally, it was my wife and I on our phone, copy and pasting messages from Airbnb, copy and pasting messages from our iPhone message app to the Airbnb app. That's how we communicated with customers. And I just want to show this is our first listing. We all had to start somewhere. This was probably a lot of used furniture, some stuff from IKEA, and the space has really evolved a lot from there for us, both from a technology perspective and also from our listings. Next slide, please. So our portfolio today, so 6 years later through COVID, again, we're about 30 properties. So we have we're not a traditional property manager. So we own and control our entire portfolio. We have about 30 properties, 6 that we own. So 6 properties that we own in Tennessee, and the rest we use a strategy called rental arbitrage, which means that we rent the apartments from a landlord and then re-rent it on Airbnb, Vrbo, Booking.com with their express permission. So that's how we built our portfolio. From a communication perspective, we use Hostaway. We were using a prior platform before, and then we've migrated to Hostaway in 2019, and we've stayed ever since. So we're obviously very happy with the platform. We also use a software called Dialpad, which allows you to communicate with your guests through text messages and voice. And over 90% of our communications are now automated. So that's something I really want to focus on is when you build and leverage, when you're trying to build a scalable business, you really have to try to automate as much as possible. And the technology has really allowed us to do that. And now we're not just my wife and I, we're a 4-person. We have 4 people that handle customer service for us. So I also want to highlight the technology that you use. When you're building a team, you want to make sure that technology can scale with your company. That it's not just you as the business owner, but that you can build a team and your technology can support building a team. And that's another key aspect of when we were deciding on a PMS system that we eventually chose Hostaway. So next slide, please. So quickly, I just want to show our portfolio today. The ones below are the ones we own. The ones above are the ones that are apartments that we rent. And you can see the game definitely has evolved since 2016. And your design is also very important. So we're not going to hit on that today, but just want to show the evolution of our portfolio and just a way of showing how our technology stack has evolved since then. We were definitely kind of that old picture that you saw in 2016. And today we're a little more advanced. And I'd love to kind of share with you a little bit more about how we've been able to move along that journey. Next slide, please. Okay. So show that you care. And that's really the key theme of the next two slides that I want to share with you. You want the guest to feel that you care about them. And this doesn't mean that you have to show up and hand them the keys and walk them through the apartment or walk through the property. You can do this virtually and through technology. And we've spent a lot of time in building business processes to do that from far away. So I live in New York. My team is broadly spread around the globe. And our properties are Philadelphia, which is 2 hours away, and then Tennessee, which is 10 hours away. So physically impossible for us to be there for the guests. So we have to leverage technology to show them that we care. And hopefully they come back and book with us again and leave us a good review. Just to take a step back, right? The customer communication journey, we've really broken down to 4 different pieces, right? It's a time of booking, before they check in, during their stay, and after they check out, right? So really, if you break down that communication journey, it's 4 key steps. So for us, there's at least 7 touch points in this journey. And we found that to be a kind of good number of touch points, a good number of times we're messaging a guest without annoying them too much, but giving them the right information. And we always want to make sure that we're responding to questions in 2 minutes or less, right? One big thing that customers really care about is responsiveness, especially if they have an issue, like if they can't check in their property. No one wants to wait outside for 5-10 minutes in the cold after driving for 4 hours to get into your property, right? So you really want to make sure that if you get asked a question, that you're responding right away, or at least they know that you're working on something. Okay. So 7 touch points, response time less than 2 minutes. Now, the time of booking, right? At booking, it's really important. So your listing has a big part in play in this, but also the way that you communicate with your guests if they have questions before booking. I think it's really important to set expectations up front, right? Both good and bad. What you don't, the biggest thing is you want to avoid surprises, especially negative surprises after a guest checks in. So just to give a quick example, we have property in Philadelphia. Philadelphia is an urban city in the US, and some of them are along a main street, and it can get very loud. So before, we didn't have that in the description, and we got a lot of guest complaints. I'm like, it's too loud, I can't sleep. We're like, okay, I can't do anything about us being on a main street. What can we do? So we just put in a listing there, like in very prominent letters, like we are along a main street in Philadelphia. It will be noisy, especially during the summer. Just we'll provide earplugs, but be aware. And the negative reviews, the negative questions actually came down a ton, like over 90%, because people knew what to expect, right? So that's a part of the technology piece as well, but really just being upfront and setting expectations, both good and bad, right? You talk about if you have a great swimming pool or a great view, you should be very upfront about that. You should also be upfront about if there's something potentially negative about the property so people know. Okay. And the second thing is acknowledge special occasions, especially if you have a big property or people are coming for family reunion, some big thing. At least acknowledge it. If you can't do anything special for them, be like, hey, really happy to welcome you to our property because of your anniversary. Let us know if we can be helpful to you. That also helps with showing that you care and getting a good review. Okay, so that's step 1. So step 2 is pre-check-in. So we have something called a 74-48-24 rule. And all that means, so actually, let me take a step back. Before they check in, you want to make sure they have all the information they need to check in seamlessly, right? So they know where they're going, they know how to check in, they know where it is. So you want to really make sure that they don't have any problems getting into the property. So what we do is there's an automated messaging feature on HostAway, and you want to make sure that you're pushing as much information as possible to your guests, right? Don't worry about overloading them. I've actually never experienced that. We send a very long message with a lot of detail. You want to send it to them 72 hours beforehand. Hey, you're checking in 72 hours. These are the directions. This is how you get in. We basically send the same message 24 hours later, 48 hours later. So that's 2 messages, right? And then 24 hours before, we'll ask them, hey, I just want to make sure that you have all the information you need to check in. Can you just let me know if you do? And if not, let me know if you have any questions. So again, we're touching them 3 times before they check in so that they know that we care and want to make sure that they have a good experience coming in. And one little trick that we've learned actually is using videos. So if you have if any part of your check-in process that might be a little confusing, maybe the keys in a weird place, the properties, like you have to find a property, for example, maybe it's kind of tucked in somewhere, provide a video. So what we do is we record a video for every part of the check-in process and we upload it to YouTube. And then we have a link that we put in the automated message that goes to that video. And that saved us a ton of questions. The last thing you want is someone to FaceTime you when they're trying to check in. So for folks that have properties that maybe there's a little bit tricky or there's a little trickiness on the check-in part, make sure you take videos and incorporate it within your automated messages. We found it to be very helpful. Next slide, please. Okay. By the way, folks, I hope this is helpful. If it is, just give me nod your head on the webinar. If you have any questions, please put in the Q&A and we'll address it afterwards. Okay. Last slide for me. During the stay. So our philosophy is actually, we want to minimize guest communication. We don't once you check in, and we want them to enjoy their time, right? We don't want them to be answering a bunch of questions for us unless there's an issue. So 24 hours after they check in, we'll send them this automated message. We send them an automated message. Is everything okay? If there are any issues, please let us know. If not, no need to respond. We hope you're having a good stay. And so that's just the check-in, but we hope to never actually hear from them, because if there's no issues, then they should just be enjoying their time. And then also to minimize guest communication, we want to put all the information out there so they have access to it. So the guest book has all the information about the property, where the thermostat is, what the Wi-Fi information. So things that your guests are going to need, how to work the hot tub, where's the pool, et cetera, et cetera. And then we also provide a guidebook that gives them where's the supermarket, where's fast food, where's all the little things that you think they'll need for their trip, just so they have it there. They don't have to bother you. Hey, where's the nearest grocery store? They can find it on the guidebook. One, it's a better guest experience for them. Two, it minimizes the amount of work for you and your staff. Now, issues come up, right? Things break. It's just a fact of property management. Things break. AC breaks, door doesn't work, toilet's running, whatever the case may be. So this is where we will get on the phone with them. We'll talk with them, make sure that they're doing okay. But we tell them that we want to acknowledge the problem. We want to tell them that we're fixing it, update them on the status. And when it's resolved, actually checking in with them, hey, did they actually fix the problem? Now, this isn't something you can automate, right? This is something you actually have to personally do or train your staff to do. But really, what we've learned is just showing that you care. And even if you can't fix it, say it's a weekend, it's a Saturday night, you're checking out Sunday, something breaks, you can't get anyone there. At least that you're showing that you care. And hey, I'm sorry. This is what we can do to make it right for you. You'll be surprised that you're like, oh, it's okay, I get it. Things happen. I'm just glad that you responded right away. And a lot of times they don't even care. But just if you try to ignore it, that's going to cause a problem for you. Okay. Now, pre-checkout, 24 hours for a checkout, we'll send them a message saying, hey, really, on an automated message again, we hope you enjoyed your stay. This is your checkout time. And if you don't mind, there are a few things that we'd like for you to do before you check out. Now, I know there's a big meme out there about these long chore lists, which I think rightfully, people are getting roasted on for making their guests their cleaners. It's not something you want to do. So really trying to minimize the chores. All we ask them to do is tidy up after themselves and save the environment. So just really easy things, right? Load the dishwasher, just put all the trash in the trash cans. We'll take it all out, right? Save the environment. It's a better way of, instead of asking them to turn off the lights and thermostat, just say, hey, can you help? We want to help save the environment. Please turn down the thermostat to X. Please make sure you close the blinds or turn off the lights, right? People, we found it to be a much better way of asking them to do these little chores that really do help the environment, but also keep your heating and your electricity bills down. So that's a pre-checkout. That's one message. Now, lastly, the seventh message is post-checkout. We don't want to send them. I think what a lot of people do is they send a message at the time of checkout or an hour after checkout. Hey, can you leave a review? You know what? Most people are already they're on the way to the airport, they're driving home, they're trying to get their kids in the car. Wait a little bit, 24 hours after they check out, let them get to where they're going to go, let them get settled in, and then politely ask for a review. Hey, we really hope we're a small family business. We really hope that you enjoyed your stay. If there's any issues, let us know. If not, we would appreciate a 5-star review, or we would appreciate a good review and really help our business. That for us is that customer journey and showing the guests that we care, right? These 7 touch points, but it's not just the 7 messages that you're sending. It's all the work in the background of that, right? The guidebook, the guest book when they're in there, making the videos so that, if they have any questions, they can just hop onto YouTube and look at how to open the lock, for example. If there's something tricky about your lock, so that you don't have to sit there and explain it and they can self-serve themselves. This is what's worked for us. This is a lot of learnings that we've developed over the last 6 years on how to deliver a great customer experience to our guests, and while minimizing the amount of back and forth that we need to do and leverage